Okay, guys, good morning. Didn't really want to talk about this, rather be doing something else. But in view of the fact that there's so many Tory rats leaving the sinking Tory ship to swim over to the Reform Party on a ship that's eventually going to sink, I figured I had to make this video. The question really is, should Advance UK be taking in Conservatives, especially Conservatives like Dominic Cummings? I'm not saying Dominic Cummings is coming to Advance UK, but he's just an example to take. I'll tell you why we're using Dominic Cummings as an example now in a moment. For those of you who don't know, Dominic Cummings, he's well, as you can see there from the title, he's ex-advisor to Boris Johnson. There's a lot of controversy about him. I'll let you go look that for yourself. He's been described as being a professional psychopath. No, I've got nothing against psychopaths. Nothing at all, providing they do the job. But this man is, by all accounts, a nasty piece of work. Yeah, a bit of a bully. I'll let you read it. I'm not going to help you form your opinions. You'll have to form your own opinions on the man. But let's go and look at this video. Yeah, not that one. This one. This is over on the Richie and Rogue show. Richie, of course, is Richard Taylor, the leader of Advance UK in Wales. They do a great show. They've got a big following. I tune into it now and again, but to be honest, I get fed up with people teaching their granny how to suck eggs. I mean, listening to yet another guest speaker tell me something I knew in 2007 or that the BNP were trying to warn you about in 2007 and earlier. In 1976, organisations like the New World Order, the Bohemian Grove, and the Fabians. God, if I hear one more guest tell me, hey, there's a semi-secret organisation called the Fabians, as if they just discovered the wheel or something, you know, I just tune out like. But it's a good show, and it's good for people new to politics who don't know how the world is run, who really owns it, who governs it, about the companies that own the mainstream media, about the Fabian Society and stuff like that. So it's good. I think if they want to talk about someone, they should try talking about Common Purpose. Some interesting information to be had there with Common Purpose. And let's have a listen to this video. This is what kicked it off. You ready? Let's go.
Look, do you know what? Every time I've sat there and went, there's no way Nigel Farage would do that, he's then gone and done something even worse. So, possibly, probably.
What about Dominic Cummings? What about Dominic Cummings? Well, what do you think? Because don't never underestimate that guy. I mean, love him or hate him, he's not stupid. He's a very smooth operator, and he's been around pods a long time. And I listened to him on a podcast. I think it was with Michael Gove. Just a few weeks ago, and I was just very impressed with him. I'm not saying I agree with Dominic Cummings by far some of the stuff he was involved with Boris Johnson, but would someone like him be a good addition to someone like Advance UK? I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying he is, right? But what's your thoughts on that?
If Dominic Cummings offered to join Advance UK, I would snap his hand off. Dominic Cummings, can I just say, by the way, I actually do agree with a lot of what he says, particularly around the idea of what's wrong with this country, right? He gets it. And do you know what? He's got it for years. For a start off, a lot of people don't know this. He's a working class northerner originally, right? And when you listen to Dominic Cummings and he talks about how upsetting it is to see that, because the thing is, right, no matter who takes over government, you've got to understand that I mean, Rupert Law's mentioned this. The 23 senior civil servants in the government, in the parliament, have more power than the government themselves, right? The way it's been structured is really bad. The only person to beat a senior civil servant in the last 10 years, 20 years, whatever I can think of, was Dominic Cummings. And basically, he did it by getting Boris Johnson to fire the senior civil servant and a number of other civil servants in the education department. That's the only reason why we've got academies like the Michaela School now, okay? Because basically he said, I can't work out how to get rid of these people. The only way I can do it legally is to get the Prime Minister to do it, who can do anything, right? And he did that. And sure enough, what he worked out was, if you just keep firing people, eventually the remaining people will say, yeah, I'm going to do what you've asked me to. Dominic Cummings understands what's wrong with this country. He also understands that if we give power to the right people in this country, we can be a great country again. Okay? There are ways we can do this.
Okay. So that's what prompted me to create this video. Now, what do you think? Do you think we should let people like Dominic Cummings into Advance UK? I don't know. Anyhow, Richard referred to an interview with Gough that Cummings had been involved in. Let's go have a listen to Dominic Cummings himself, see what he has to say. I quite liked what he said in this video I'm going to show you next. Okay. Should listen to what Dominic says now in a moment. I found it quite interesting. Made me think a bit. Let's go.
Is persuasive, but given that you've got clowns to the left and clowns to the right, as it were, then it's always going to be difficult to achieve what you want.
You have to separate out very carefully two different things, right? Perfection is obviously impossible, completely impossible, and history shows the recurring patterns. You read them in Thucydides and classical Athens, you see them today. There is no system which can eradicate some of these core problems of human nature, unless human nature itself is re-engineered. But lots of the things I'm talking about are things that we know that imperfect humans with imperfect institutions can do. We can all look back and see how Whitehall and Pitt dealt with procurement and R&D and military procurement in the 1790s and 1800s. Whitehall in 1795, 1800 was closer to SpaceX 2025 in culture than Whitehall 2025 is to SpaceX 2025.
But Pitt and Elon are exceptional individuals.
No. Well, true. Pitt was an exceptional individual, but Pitt was also a product of a system, and there were many exceptional individuals around. And I think this is the other part of this, right? So we know that Whitehall could do a lot of these things much better because it did it. We know that the American system could do far better because you can just go back and read General Groves on Now It Can Be Told. You can read Freedom's Forge on industrial production in World War II. That's not a pipe dream. That's not, oh, this is impossible. Human institutions before the internet, before computers, could do all of this stuff, right? We know it's possible. But you are pointing to, I think, what is a profound change, and this is critical. If you look, what's the big difference between the Westminster of Whitehall of 1800 and now? It's the talent. In 1800, a large element of the most elite talent in the country was in some combination of Parliament, Whitehall, armed forces, intelligence services, deep statey type stuff, right? What is the big cultural change that's happened in the last few decades? It's the flight of elite talent out of public service in Western countries. And the collapse of the institutions is partly because of institutional dynamics, bureaucratic dynamics that kind of operate regardless of the electron people inside, but also because all of these across the Western world, we've had this cultural shift of elite talent out to do other things. So General Groves now, where's General Groves now? He's working for Elon on rockets, or he's working for Patrick Collison in Stripe, or whatever it is. Right? They're not sitting in the Pentagon program doing the F-35. And that is a huge problem. And you are right to point to that. And it's also correct to say you can't expect institutions like Skunkworks or SpaceX if you don't have great people inside. It doesn't matter how you write down the organizational chart, it doesn't matter what legislation you draw or anything else. These things are always a mix of institutional structure and incentives on the one hand, and then elite talent on the other hand. So we've driven out elite talent. We can't expect Whitehall and Westminster to change without that. But that's why, going back to our conversations in summer 2020, we talked about, here's how various institutional structures need to change in number 10, the Cabinet Office and whatnot, right? All these boring things that you were very unusual as an MP in actually being interested in. Most of them aren't interested in. But we also talked to the Cabinet Secretary about how do we change the rules so we can hire in these people. Instead of Whitehall being closed by default and 99.99% jobs just being all internally promoted from the caste, the approved caste that controls the system, like a Hindu caste. Instead, you have to open it up and make the system open by default so that you can hire who you want. And then make ministers actually responsible. This is the last thing I'll say, then I'll shut up. You go back to the world of Pitt, you go back to the world of Palmerston, and then you look at today. The single most striking thing I would suggest, and I would challenge you as an MP to argue against me, is for them, responsibility to Parliament was real. It was not fake. Pitt and Co had real investigations into procurement scandals. They destroyed careers, they threw people in jail. Palmerston didn't turn around when something went wrong and went, oh, well, I'll have to ask the Perm Sec and don't blame me. Right? Palmerston said in a great letter to Queen Victoria, England will never have the European system of a permanent bureaucracy, and if it does, it'll be a disaster. What's the big shift that's happened? This shift in Whitehall is inseparable from the shift from ministerial responsibility to Parliament being genuine to ministerial responsibility to Parliament becoming a complete fake and a fraud. And you know, nobody actually believes in it, right? You go into Parliament and you stand up and you say, oh yes, this disaster that's all over the Today programme, and then use this morning, I take full responsibility and blah, blah, blah. But it's not in your heart, you know, you don't take full responsibility for it. You didn't even probably know about it until last night when someone says, oh my God, the front page of the Times tomorrow has this bloody nightmare story. Why is that? And then you read the papers, you talk to them saying, oh my God, it's so insane. If I told the truth, no one would ever believe it, right? But you have to stand up and say, I take full responsibility, blah, blah, blah. But it's all fake. Now, the odd thing is, the country knows it's all fake. The voters know it's all fake. The only place where anyone still pretends that the fake is real is inside Westminster itself.
As you've said in the past, progress.
Okay, guys, what do you think? I thought Dominic Cummings spoke a lot of sense there. I mean, I agree with him about the politicians of the past, that's for sure. I mean, I can remember when politicians did have sense of honour. Remember the Profumo affair? Resignations? Ministers really did used to fall on their swords back in those days. I really don't know, guys. It'll be interesting to see what you say in the comments. I don't know. Okay, guys, you've been listening to Paul Morris, the Green Arrow, asking, do you think we should let Conservatives like Dominic Cummings into Advance UK? That's all I got for you for now.